Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 159. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the morning of Saturday, February the 15th, from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. Bit of a podcast delay this morning, but I had a real good reason for it. Got up, wrote the podcast, getting ready to record it. And then this horrible noise started coming from a different part of the house, away from the studio, but it was a motor noise. And I went downstairs, and the trophy wife was making ice cream. We're having a party tomorrow, and her ice cream maker makes a huge noise. And while the studio is pretty well insulated from noises throughout the rest of the house, it's not well enough insulated to not pick up the noise of that strong electric motor. So I had to delay it until the ice cream was made. I'm not complaining because that ice cream is going to be wonderful for dessert tomorrow. So there you have it. That's why the podcast is a little bit late. That's an explanation, by the way, not an apology. Studio update. More improvements to the studio since the last podcast. Minor upgrades, I guess. I'm back to using the Heil Sound microphones because I was able to build in my machine shop and install on the tables new mounts for the Heil Sound microphones. So we're back to the A-quality microphones, the A-quality headsets, the A-quality mixer box, etc., etc., etc. So I think last week I reported we're 90% of the way there. I guess I would have to say I'm probably about 98% of the way there. Some little minor tweaking and things like that to do yet, but the studio is in fantastic shape. I uploaded a story on Facebook this morning, and it has to do with the new James Bond song. It was just released. The movie is No Time to Die, and it's actually not coming out for a couple of months. It's the 25th Bond film. Billie Eilish, young lady, recorded the song called No Time to Die. I uploaded it, listen to it, see what you think. I don't think it's anything special. I mean, her voice is very strong. It's a good, strong voice, but the song is slow, rather mundane. Perhaps it'll grow on me. Okay. I don't know. It's hard to say. The last few Bond films have been really nothing extraordinary. I hope this one is. I hope the song grows on me. I hope the score is better. And I hope the film is good as well. We'll find out for sure in about 2 months. Well, we had a cold snap here in the St. Louis area this week. I wasn't here to experience it. Actually, the last time we had a cold snap in the St. Louis area, I was in Southern California, so I didn't experience it at all. However, this time I was not in Southern California. I was in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So while I didn't get the cold snap that you folks got, I got one that was much, much colder. Minneapolis, minus 15 this week. However, fortunately, I wasn't in Minneapolis when the cold snap hit. I was in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I was in Minneapolis. I was in Mankato, Minnesota, Menominee, Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin. The real cold day I was in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and actually that was about the furthest south that I got. That was the warmest of all the places that I was. Only got down to 6 below, which, 6 below is cold, but not like 15 below that it would have been in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Very cold weather up there. And actually, people who live in that part of the world, anything in the Midwest, I guess, I would say north of Milwaukee, okay? Milwaukee is almost the line of demarcation. Some people say it's Chicago, but really Milwaukee's weather is not much different from Chicago, but you get north of there, okay? And things really do change. It gets cold, and it's a different kind of cold, and it's a different type of people who live in that area. Those people embrace the cold. And it's a good thing because there's a lot of cold up there for a long, long time. They don't have a choice. They ice fish. They like to go snowmobiling. They really do embrace the cold weather. They get out in it, and they do things in it. In fact, one of the main highways that goes from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, to the center of the state in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, right next to Highway 43, I believe, it's a snowmobile trail. And it's most of the way to Fond du Lac, okay, which is a long way for a snowmobile trail. Now you think, well, who wouldn't want to take a snowmobile trail that far? Well, probably no one would want to take it that far, but there's a lot of people between Fond du Lac and Sheboygan that ride snowmobiles, okay? And something to consider is those snowmobiles will go as fast as a car, if not faster. I've been on that road, that Highway 43, going 60 miles an hour, which is the speed limit. And I will tell you that Highway 43 really doesn't have many stop signs on it. It's basically, it's 4-lane highway both ways most of the way. But the snowmobile trails do have stop signs because of the cross traffic. So they have to stop, look both ways, and go. I've been on that highway with snowmobilers exceeding that speed limit. In other words, they're going something more than 60 miles an hour because they pass me. Not like I'm standing still, but they definitely pass me. I catch up to them at the intersection because they have to stop and look both ways, and I don't. But I don't know that there is a speed limit on a snowmobile trail, but that's how those people get around. That's what they do for sport. It's a different type of people that lives up there. In fact, I had a meeting with a young engineer in Green Bay, and this was the night before the big cold snap was going to hit, and I asked him if he was ready for it, and he seemed very unengaged. It didn't really care, didn't really affect him. I said, well, isn't that awfully cold? He smiled and said, well, this weekend I'm going up to the UP of Pennsylvania. Of Michigan. That's the Upper Peninsula north of the Great Lakes. And he said, and I'm going camping. I said, well, isn't there snow up there? He said, absolutely. I said, well, how would you camp in the snow? He said, that's where we camp. They build an igloo and they sleep in the igloo. And they go, what did he call it? It would be hiking, but he called it snowshoeing is what he did. They just go hiking in their snowshoes. So that's how he was going to spend his weekend, sleeping in an igloo that him and his buddies made and hiking around in the cold weather. I asked him how warm it gets in the igloo. He says, well, it's never going to go below 32 degrees because for some reason, the way it works, ice freezes at 32. You're just frozen, but not more than that. And that's what it is, 32 degrees. Now, to me, if the warmest I ever got for a weekend was 32 degrees, my teeth would fall out from the shattering. But people who live up there, they're not that way. They're a bit different. But then again, that's where they live. That's what they embrace. And variety is the spice of life. My essay today has to do with the coronavirus, or as they're calling it now, COVID-19, the Chinese, how they're approaching it, the World Health Organization, how they're approaching it, and how, in my opinion, and I could be wrong because I've been wrong before, in my opinion, this whole coronavirus episode may, in many ways, shape the world or be the determining factor as to how the world is going to be shaped in the next 10 years. Have I piqued your interest? I hope so. First off, the whole term coronavirus, that's what they used to call it. They're now calling it COVID-19. And this was the talk of some inner circles of mine. And this coronavirus thing was supposed to be a brand new virus that never was discovered before. It was brand new. They didn't know how to cure it. They didn't know much about it. They're not going to have a vaccine for a year. But then if you look on the back of a can of Lysol spray, it says it kills coronavirus. And me and many others thought, well, wait a minute. If this is something that's brand new, how come it's on the back of a Lysol can saying that it kills it? Well, coronavirus is a generic term, okay, kind of like flu. Okay, I have the flu. Well, there's many, many different types of flu. Same thing with coronavirus, many types of coronavirus. Coronavirus is like a generic term. This particular coronavirus is now called COVID-19, okay? So there's the difference between this, what we used to call coronavirus, and what they're probably going to start calling now COVID-19, because that's the official name for it. There's a U.S.-Canadian team that put together some numbers. Don't know who these guys are, don't know where they came up with these numbers, but they predict anywhere from 500,000 to 4.4 million people will come down with this coronavirus, with this COVID-19 virus, before it's all said and done, okay? Now, a lot of people say, why, this coronavirus, this COVID-19, this is just all hype. This is all baloney. No, it's not. It's the real deal. It's the real thing. Lots of people died. As of last night, 1,300, I think, officially have died from this virus. Now you think, well, 1,300, well, more people than that die in car accidents every month in the United States. Well, okay, maybe. But 1,300, if this turns into a pandemic, 1,300 could turn into 13,000, could turn into 13 million, okay? It's happened before. It could happen again. Now, will it? I hope not. Probably won't, because of the measures that we're taking. But it could. Unchecked, it certainly could. And the big reason that people are concerned about this is because the Chinese Communist government, they're not reporting these cases accurately. They're just not, okay? And now you may say, well, here you go, Strong, slamming the communists again. You hate the communists. Well, I don't hate the communists. I do have a great disdain for their form of government. But the fact of the matter is they flat out lie and misrepresent the truth all the time. They always do. Their people know they do. Case in point, look at the death rate of COVID-19 versus SARS, okay? More people have died of COVID-19 than died of SARS. But the Chinese government says, well, there are a whole lot more cases with SARS. There's not nearly as many people that have COVID-19 compared to the number of people who were infected with SARS. Because if you remember, SARS started in China as well. Well, here's the problem with those numbers. If it's true, if it is as the Chinese government is reporting, that there were more cases of SARS than there were COVID-19, more people have died of COVID-19 than of SARS. And the SARS death rate was 15%. If you're over 64, it was over 50%. In other words, if you got SARS, there was a 15% chance you were going to die. If you were over 64, there was a better than 50% chance that you were going to die. If you get COVID-19, your chance of dying is 2%. If you're older or infirm or have a compromised immune system, the rate goes up. But the overall rate, 2%. So if 2% of the people who get COVID-19 die and 15% of the people who got SARS died, and more people have died of COVID-19, do the math. There can't be less people that got the COVID-19 virus than there were that got the SARS virus, okay? So I don't know why they released these numbers. They were thinking that people wouldn't do simple mathematics and put two and two together, but they released those numbers. People did the mathematics, and they've asked these Chinese communists to come clean. And they're changing their numbers. They're releasing new numbers. They're now releasing new numbers that were 2 weeks old. In other words, yeah, well, we were wrong here. Here's the real numbers from 2 weeks ago, but these numbers are the right numbers now. Now, maybe they'll release numbers for today 2 weeks from now, because that's the incubation period for COVID-19. But they're just not being upfront and honest, okay? Everybody knows it. Everyone in the West knows it. The World Health Organization knows it. And most important, the Chinese people know it. Now, the last time I was in China, I did a few things. Maybe it was risky, maybe it wasn't. First of all, I tried to get on Twitter. You can't. Tried to get on Facebook. You can't. Tried to get on Google. You really can't. But what they do have is they have a social media network called Weibo, okay? And Weibo is kind of like Chinese Twitter, except for it's ran, monitored, and looked at by the government. So they say you can say whatever you want.